Shadows of Vengeance. A story of escape, revenge, and redemption. Part 1, The Escape. The breaking point. The champagne glass slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering across the marble floor of the Grand Horizon Hotel ballroom. 200 heads turned toward the sound, their faces blurring into a sea of judgment and curiosity. But I only saw one face. Derek's. And the cold fury burning in his eyes told me everything I needed to know about what would happen when we got home. "Arya, darling, are you all right?" His voice dripped with false concern as he gripped my elbow, fingers digging into my skin hard enough to bruise. To everyone watching, he was the devoted fiancé, worried about his clumsy bride-to-be. Only I could see the violence simmering beneath his perfect smile. "I'm fine," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the orchestra that had resumed playing. "I just need some air." "Of course." His grip tightened, a warning. "We'll go together." That's when I made the decision that would change everything. Instead of following him toward the balcony like I'd done 100 times before, I twisted out of his grasp and ran. Not toward the balcony. Not toward the bathroom. Straight toward the exit. The flight. Behind me, Derek's voice rose above the music. "Arya. Stop." But I didn't stop. I couldn't. My silver heels clicked against the polished floor as I pushed through the crowd, ignoring the startled gasps and curious stares. The emergency exit sign glowed red ahead, promising freedom I'd almost forgotten existed. I burst through the door into a stairwell, my designer gown tangling around my legs. Without thinking, I kicked off my shoes and started running down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. My bare feet slapped against cold concrete. Behind me, the door exploded open. "You're making a scene." Derek's voice echoed through the stairwell, bouncing off walls and chasing me downward. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Get back here now." But embarrassment was the least of my worries. I'd seen what happened when Derek got embarrassed. The last time I'd contradicted him in front of his business partners, he'd locked me in our bedroom for 2 days without food. The bruises had taken weeks to fade. I reached the ground floor and shoved through the door, emerging into the cool night air. The street was darker than I expected, the glamorous hotel facade giving way to an industrial area of warehouses and loading docks. I ran anyway, my dress tearing on a chain-link fence as I squeezed through a gap. Into the shadows. The sound of Derek's footsteps grew louder. He was gaining on me, his longer legs eating up the distance I'd created. My lungs burned, my feet screamed in pain from running on rough pavement, but terror pushed me forward. I turned a corner and found myself in an alley between 2 massive buildings. A mistake. The alley was a dead end. Nowhere to run now. Derek's voice came from behind me, breathless but triumphant. He stood at the entrance to the alley, silhouetted against the streetlight, looking like every nightmare I'd ever had given form. "Did you really think you could leave me? After everything I've done for you?" Everything he'd done to me was more accurate. The controlling. The isolation. The cruelty that started small and grew until it swallowed my entire world. I pressed my back against the cold brick wall, searching desperately for an escape. That's when I noticed the building to my left had a service entrance, the door slightly ajar. Without thinking, I lunged for it. Derek's hand closed around my arm, yanking me backward. "You ungrateful." The door suddenly swung open fully, revealing a man I'd never seen before. He was tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair and eyes that seemed to absorb the darkness around us. He wore an expensive suit that made Derek's look cheap, and there was something in his stance that spoke of controlled power. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was smooth, cultured, but underneath it ran something dangerous. The stranger. Derek's grip on my arm loosened slightly. "This is a private matter. My fiancée is having a bit of an episode. I'm taking her home." "Is that true?" The stranger's eyes moved to me, and I felt pinned by their intensity. "Are you having an episode?" I should have nodded. Should have gone back with Derek and faced whatever punishment awaited. That would have been the safe thing to do, the expected thing. But something in this stranger's gaze made me brave. "No," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I'm escaping." The stranger's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. "I see. And do you want to go with him?" "Listen, friend," Derek's voice took on the edge that always preceded violence, "I don't know who you are, but you need to mind your own business. This is my fiancée, and she's coming with me." "Actually," the stranger said, stepping fully into the alley, "this is my property. Which makes anything happening on it my business." He moved with fluid grace, positioning himself between Derek and me. "The lady says she doesn't want to go with you. I suggest you respect that." Derek laughed, but it was an ugly sound. "Do you know who I am?" "I'm Derek Ashford. My family owns half this city. You really want to make an enemy of me over some confused woman?" "Confused?" I found my voice again, anger finally breaking through the fear. "You locked me in our apartment for 2 days, Derek. You broke my phone so I couldn't call anyone. You told my family I was too busy to see them until they stopped trying. That's not confusion. That's imprisonment." Derek's face flushed red. "I was protecting you. You're too naive to understand the dangers out there. Everything I did was because I love you." "That's not love," the stranger said quietly. "That's control." He looked at me again. "What's your name?" "Arya. Arya Chen." "Arya." He said my name like he was testing how it felt. "I'm Kian Blackwell. And I'm offering you a choice. You can go with him, or you can come with me. But choose quickly, because my patience with men who terrorize women is remarkably short." The choice. Kian Blackwell. The name meant nothing to me, but Derek's reaction said everything. He went pale, all the bluster draining from his face. "Blackwell?" Derek's voice cracked slightly. "As in Blackwell Industries?" "The same." Kian's tone was mild, but there was steel underneath. "Now, I believe the lady has a decision to make. And I believe you have somewhere else to be." For a moment, Derek looked like he might argue. His hands clenched into fists, and that familiar rage flared in his eyes. But something about Kian must have warned him off, because he took a step backward. "This isn't over, Arya," he said, his voice low and threatening. "You think you can just walk away? You think anyone else will want you after I'm done telling everyone the truth about you? You're nothing without me." "Nothing." "She's everything without you," Kian said softly. "Now leave. Before I decide this needs to involve the police." Derek backed away, but his eyes promised retribution. "You'll regret this," he said, though it wasn't clear if he was speaking to me or Kian. Then he turned and disappeared into the night. I stood there, shaking so violently my teeth chattered. Now that the immediate danger had passed, shock was setting in. I'd actually done it. I'd actually left. "Come inside," Kian said, his voice gentler now. "You're in shock, and those feet need attention." I looked down. My feet were bleeding, cut from running on rough pavement. I hadn't even noticed the pain until now. "I don't understand," I managed. "Why did you help me?" Something complicated passed across Kian's face. "Let's just say I know what it's like to be trapped by someone who claims to love you. Come on." Inside the tower. Kian led me through the service entrance into what I quickly realized wasn't a warehouse at all, but the ground floor of a residential building. Not just any building. As we stepped into the elevator and I saw the button he pressed, PH for penthouse, I understood I'd stumbled into a different world entirely. The elevator rose silently, and I caught sight of my reflection in the mirrored walls. My elaborate updo had fallen apart, dark hair tumbling around my shoulders. My makeup was smeared, my dress torn and dirty. I looked like a disaster. Don't, Kian said, catching me staring at myself. You look like someone who fought for their freedom. There's nothing shameful in that. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse, and I stepped into a space that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, the lights spread below like fallen stars. The furniture was modern and minimal, all clean lines and dark colors. Art hung on the walls, real art that probably cost more than my entire education. Sit, Kian gestured to a leather sofa. I'll get the first aid kit. He disappeared into another room, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. What had I just done? Where would I go? Everything I owned was in the apartment I shared with Derek. My phone, my wallet, my identification. I was wearing a torn evening gown and nothing else. I had nothing. Kian returned with a medical kit that looked professional grade. He knelt in front of me, examining my feet with surprising gentleness. This might sting, he warned before applying antiseptic. He was right. It burned like fire, but I bit my lip and stayed silent. You're tougher than you look. I've had practice. He glanced up at me, and something in his eyes made me think he understood more than I'd said. How long? 2 years. We met at a gallery opening. He was charming at first. Attentive. Then possessive. Then. I trailed off, not wanting to finish that sentence. Then cruel, Kian finished for me. His jaw tightened as he wrapped my feet in soft bandages. They always follow the same pattern. Charm, control, cruelty. And they always make you believe it's your fault. You sound like you've seen it before. I have. He stood, putting the medical kit aside. My mother stayed with my father for 15 years. She thought she was protecting me by staying, thought if she just tried harder, loved him better, he'd change. He never did. What happened? She finally left when I was 16. Took me with her, started over with nothing. Best decision she ever made. He moved to the bar and poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. Worst part is, she still apologizes sometimes. Says she should have left sooner, should have protected me better. As if any of it was her fault. He handed me a glass. Whiskey. For the shock. I took a sip and immediately coughed. It burned going down, but warmth spread through my chest, pushing back some of the cold fear that had taken up residence there. What happens now? I asked. Kian settled into the chair across from me, his dark eyes studying me with an intensity that should have made me uncomfortable but somehow didn't. Now you have choices to make. Derek Ashford isn't the type to give up easily. He'll look for you. He has resources, connections. If you go back to your old life, he'll find you. I have nowhere else to go. My family. Derek convinced them I was unstable. That I needed him to take care of me. They stopped listening to me months ago. Then you need a new life. Kian leaned forward, and there was something in his expression that made my heart beat faster. I can help you with that. I have the resources to make you disappear, give you a fresh start where Derek can't reach you. Why would you do that for a stranger? He was quiet for a long moment, shadows playing across his face. Let's just say I have my reasons. But I'm not asking you to trust me blindly, Arya. I'm offering you a choice. You can stay here tonight, figure out your next move in the morning. Or I can arrange for you to go somewhere safe right now. What do you want? What did I want? 24 hours ago, I would have said I wanted Derek to love me the way he claimed to. But that was before tonight. Before I'd finally admitted that what Derek felt wasn't love at all. I want to disappear, I said quietly. I want to become someone he can't find. Kian smiled, and it transformed his face from severe to something almost beautiful. Then that's what we'll do. But fair warning, Arya. Once you start down this path, there's no going back. Your old life ends tonight. I looked around his penthouse, at the city lights beyond, at this strange man who'd appeared exactly when I needed him. Maybe I should have been afraid. Maybe I should have questioned his motives. But all I felt was a strange sense of relief. Good, I said, and meant it. That life was killing me anyway. A dangerous agreement. Kian stood and walked to the windows, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the glowing city. There are conditions. Rules you'll need to follow. What kind of rules? The kind that keep you alive. He turned to face me. First, you cut all contact with your old life. No calls, no messages, no tearful goodbyes. Derek is smart, and he'll use anyone connected to you to track you down. My chest tightened. My sister. She's the only one who still believes me about Derek. I can't just disappear without telling her I'm okay. You can and you will. Because if Derek gets to her, he'll use her to find you. Trust me on this. His voice softened slightly. Once enough time has passed and we're sure you're safe, we can arrange for her to know you're alright. But not yet. I wanted to argue, but deep down I knew he was right. Derek would absolutely use my sister against me. What else? You stay here for now. This building is secure, and Derek doesn't know you're here. We'll create a new identity for you, new documents, everything you need. But that takes time. Stay here? With you? The implications of that made heat rise to my cheeks. Kian's expression was unreadable. I have 3 guest rooms. You'll have your own space, your own privacy. I'm not Derek, Arya. I'm not interested in controlling you or taking advantage of your situation. Then what are you interested in? He held my gaze for a long moment. Justice. Making sure men like Derek don't get away with the things they do. And maybe. He paused, maybe making up for the times I wasn't strong enough to protect the people who needed it. There was a story there, something painful buried in his past. But before I could ask, he shook his head. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start building your new life. He moved toward the hallway, then stopped. Arya? You made the right choice tonight. Running. Fighting. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in his enormous living room with a glass of whiskey and more questions than answers. Who was Kian Blackwell really? Why was he so willing to help a stranger? And why did I get the feeling that escaping Derek was just the beginning of a much more complicated story? I finished the whiskey and made my way to the guest room he'd indicated. It was beautiful, all soft grays and comfortable furniture. A bathroom connected to it, complete with luxury toiletries and fluffy towels. I showered, washing away the remnants of the gala and Derek's touch, then climbed into bed wearing a t-shirt I found in the dresser. As I lay there in the darkness, listening to the quiet sounds of the city far below, I should have felt safe. Should have felt relieved. But something nagged at the back of my mind. Kian had appeared at exactly the right moment, said exactly the right things. He knew Derek's name, knew his reputation. Was it really just coincidence? Or had I escaped one dangerous man only to fall into the orbit of another? Sleep came eventually, but my dreams were filled with dark eyes and darker promises, and I couldn't tell if I was dreaming of my past or my future. End of Part 1. Part 2, The Web of Secrets, 2,000 words. The new identity. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and, for one terrible moment, thought I was still with Derek. Then memory crashed back. The gala. The escape. Kian Blackwell. A soft knock sounded at the door. Come in, I said, sitting up and pulling the blankets around me. Kian entered carrying a tray with coffee and pastries. He was dressed casually now, jeans and a black t-shirt that showed off the lean muscle of his arms. Somehow he looked even more dangerous this way, without the armor of an expensive suit. Good morning. How did you sleep? Better than I expected. It was true. For the first time in months, I hadn't woken up multiple times, listening for Derek's footsteps. What time is it? Almost noon. I let you sleep. He set the tray on the bedside table. When you're ready, meet me in my office. We have work to do. He left before I could respond, and I took my time getting ready, using the luxury shower and the new toiletries he'd thoughtfully provided. In the closet, I found clothes that fit me perfectly, designer labels in my exact size. The thoughtfulness of it made me uncomfortable. How had he known? Questions and answers. Kian's office was all dark wood and leather, with 3 computer monitors on his desk showing what looked like security feeds and financial data. He was on the phone when I entered, speaking in rapid Italian to someone who sounded angry. He held up a finger, indicating I should wait. Non mi interessa, he said sharply into the phone. O accetta I mi termini o trova un altro partner. He ended the call and turned to me. Sorry about that. Business. Sit. I settled into the chair across from his desk, cradling the coffee I'd brought with me. Those clothes in the closet. How did you know my size? I'm observant. He pulled up something on one of his screens. Also, I have people who are very good at their jobs. Now, let's talk about your new identity. People? What people? He ignored my question, turning one of the monitors so I could see it. On screen was what looked like a driver's license, but with a name I didn't recognize. Maya Winters. That's going to be you. Maya Winters, age 26, originally from Seattle. She has a degree in art history from a small college, no social media presence, and she's only lived in this city for 6 months. Which explains why no one knows her. You made all of this overnight? I have resources. He pulled up more documents. Social security card, credit history, even school transcripts. Maya is real enough that she'll pass any background check. Not real enough to have family or friends who might ask questions. I stared at the screen, at this fictional person I was supposed to become. This is insane. People don't just create new identities. People like me do. Kian's voice was matter of fact. I told you, Arya. I have the resources to make you disappear. This is how. What kind of resources? What exactly do you do, Kian? He leaned back in his chair, studying me. I run Blackwell Industries. On paper, we're a venture capital firm. We invest in startups, acquire struggling businesses, that sort of thing. And off paper? Off paper, we also help people who need to disappear. People running from dangerous situations. We give them new identities, new lives. Sometimes we make sure the people they're running from can't hurt them anymore. The way he said that last part made my skin prickle. What does that mean? Can't hurt them anymore? It means we make sure they face consequences for their actions. Kian's eyes went cold. Legal consequences, usually. We're very good at finding evidence of crimes, at making sure the right information gets to the right people. Derek, for instance. I'd bet my fortune that he's committed crimes beyond what he did to you. How would you know that? Because men like him always have. The violence doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are other victims, other crimes. We just have to find them. I thought about Derek's business dealings, the phone calls he'd take in another room, the meetings he never wanted me to know about. You're going to investigate him. I'm going to destroy him. There was no heat in Kian's voice, just cold certainty. But that takes time. In the meantime, you need to become Maya Winters. Growing suspicion. Over the next 2 weeks, I lived in a strange state of suspended animation. Kian was gone most days, returning late at night. When he was home, he was professional, cordial, but distant. He never touched me, never crossed boundaries. But I caught him watching me sometimes with an expression I couldn't read. I studied the life of Maya Winters, memorizing details of a childhood I never had. I practiced her signature until it felt natural. Kian brought me books on art history so I could speak knowledgeably about my supposed degree. Slowly, Arya Chin faded and Maya Winters took her place. But the more time I spent in Kian's penthouse, the more questions multiplied. Why was he really doing this? The explanation about his mother felt true, but incomplete. And there were other oddities. Like the way he'd known exactly where to find designer clothes in my size. Like how he'd known Derek's full name immediately. Like the photograph I'd found in his office drawer when looking for a pen, a photograph of Derek at what looked like a business meeting, taken from a distance. Kian had been watching Derek before I ever ran into that alley. The confrontation. I waited until he came home late one Thursday night. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened and his hair disheveled. But his eyes were alert when he found me sitting in his living room, lights off, waiting. Couldn't sleep? He asked, moving to pour himself a drink. You knew him. It wasn't a question. Before that night. You knew Derek. Kian's hand paused on the whiskey bottle. What makes you think that? I found the photograph. And a file with his name on it. You've been investigating him. I stood, moving closer. How long, Kian? How long have you been watching Derek Ashford? He poured the drink, took a long sip, then finally turned to face me. 3 months. The confirmation hit me like a physical blow. 3 months. So when I ran into that alley, when you just happened to be there. It wasn't a coincidence. His voice was steady, unapologetic. I've been tracking Derek's movements for months. I knew about the gala. I knew he'd be there. And I suspected, based on his pattern of behavior, that there might be a moment when you'd try to escape. Rage flooded through me, hot and fierce. You used me. You set this whole thing up. I saved you, Kian interrupted, his voice sharp now. You were running blind into a dangerous area with a violent man chasing you. If I hadn't been there, what do you think would have happened? I think you manipulated me. You made me trust you, made me think you were helping me out of kindness, when really I'm just part of whatever revenge plot you have against Derek. You're right. The admission stopped my angry tirade cold. Kian set down his drink and moved toward me. I have been planning revenge against Derek Ashford. But not because of you. Because of what he did to my sister. The truth revealed. The air seemed to leave the room. Your sister? Kian's face transformed, pain cracking through his usual controlled expression. Her name was Elena. She was beautiful, brilliant, kind. Everything good in the world. He moved to the windows, staring out at the city. She met Derek 5 years ago. He was charming, successful, everything she thought she wanted. By the time she realized what he really was, it was too late. My heart was pounding. What happened? He isolated her from our family. Convinced her we were toxic, that we didn't understand their love. He controlled every aspect of her life. And when she finally tried to leave, his voice broke. She fell from their apartment balcony. 10th floor. The police called it suicide. Oh God. But you don't think it was? I know it wasn't. Elena would never have left me that way. She would never have given up. He turned back to me, and his eyes were blazing with barely controlled fury. Derek killed her. Maybe he pushed her, maybe he scared her so badly she jumped. Either way, he's responsible. But I couldn't prove it. The police investigation was closed within a week. Derek's family has too much money, too much influence. I sank back onto the sofa, my legs suddenly unable to support me. So you've been planning revenge. I've been planning justice. Kian moved closer. I've spent 3 years building a case against him. Tracking his business dealings, his relationships. Finding other women he's hurt. There are 5 others I've located so far, all with similar stories. But none of them will testify. They're too afraid of him. And then I ran into your alley. Yes. He knelt in front of me, his eyes intense. I'm not proud of taking advantage of your situation, Arya. But when I saw you running, saw the fear in your face, I recognized it. You looked exactly like Elena did the last time I saw her alive. And I thought, maybe this is my chance. Maybe you'll be brave enough to do what the others couldn't. Testify against him. More than that. Kian took my hands, and it was the first time he'd really touched me since that first night. His hands were warm, strong. Help me destroy him completely. His business, his reputation, his freedom. Everything he took from Elena, from you, from all the others. I should have been angry. Should have felt manipulated, used. But all I could think about was a young woman named Elena, and how she'd died trying to escape the same monster I'd barely survived. Tell me your plan, I said. Dangerous chemistry. Over the next few days, Kian laid out his strategy. It was complex, multi-layered, and absolutely brilliant. He'd been gathering evidence of Derek's financial crimes for years. Money laundering, fraud, bribery. Enough to put him away for decades. But he needed one more thing to make the case airtight, an insider. You lived with him for 2 years, Kian explained, pulling up files on his computer. You had access to his home office, his phone, his computer. Think, Arya. Did you ever see anything? Suspicious meetings, strange phone calls, documents he tried to hide? I thought back, memories I'd tried to suppress rising to the surface. There was a safe in his office. He thought I didn't know the combination, but I saw him open it once. He kept files there, USB drives. Kian's eyes lit up. What kind of files? I don't know. I never looked. I was too afraid of what would happen if he caught me. But you know the combination? Yes. He leaned back, mind clearly racing. We need to get into that safe. Whatever's in there could be the evidence we need. How? I can't just walk back into his apartment. No, but we can make him come to us. Kian pulled up another screen, this one showing Derek's calendar. He has a business trip next month. 3 days in London. We break in while he's gone. That's insane. And illegal. So is what he did to Elena. To you. Kian's voice was hard. I'm not asking you to do this, Arya. You've already been through enough. But if you want real revenge, if you want to make sure he never hurts anyone else, this is how. I thought about Elena, falling from that balcony. About the other women Kian had mentioned, living in fear. About my own sister, who I hadn't been able to contact. About all the future victims Derek would claim if no one stopped him. I'll do it, I said. I'll help you destroy him. Kian smiled, and it was fierce and beautiful. Then let's go to war. Crossing lines. Planning the break-in consumed our days. Kian was meticulous, preparing for every contingency. He had blueprints of Derek's building, security schedules, everything we'd need. But as we worked together, something shifted between us. It started small. Hands brushing as we reached for the same file. Eyes meeting across the desk and holding a moment too long. The air in the room growing thick with tension that had nothing to do with our plan. One night, working late, I made a joke and Kian actually laughed. It transformed his face, made him look younger, less burdened. I found myself wanting to make him laugh again, wanting to see that lightness return. You're staring, he said without looking up from his computer. Sorry. I just realized I don't actually know much about you. Besides your revenge plan and your dead sister, I mean. I winced. God, that sounded terrible. It's accurate. He saved his work and turned to face me. What do you want to know? Everything. Your favorite color. What you studied in college.